Hey guys, what's up? It's Marissa and I am back for another booktube video, and today I am doing the Harry Potter spells tag. So this tag is kind of old. I ended up finding it on a blog and not actually on YouTube, so I'm not even sure who the original creator of this tag was, but let's get into it. So the first prompt is Expecto Patronum. I don't have a wand, so I'm using my finger, sorry. A childhood book connected to good memories. And for me, that would be the Laurel K. Hamilton books. My dad ended up buying those for my sister or both of us or whatever, and we used to pass them back and forth and just kind of devour them. And if you know anything about Laurel K. Hamilton, her books anymore are kind of smutty. I mean, they were kind of smutty back then, but now they're like even more smutty. It's like, you know, a bunch of sex scenes, a little bit of plot, a bunch more sex scenes. So I don't even bother reading them anymore. But honestly, I mean, I really enjoyed those books when I was younger, when they were more plot driven. So yeah, obviously those aren't kids' books. So the next one is Expelliarmus, and that is a book that took you by surprise. The book that I am going to pick for this is The Bone Houses by Emily Lloyd-Jones, and that one was the September Owl Crate book, and I ended up really actually liking that book. I didn't expect to, for the plain and simple reason that it was an Owl Crate book, and Owl Crate has been really missed for me. I only had it for 3 months, and I ended up hating like every book that it came with, except for the September book. And I mean, it was a good book. I'm not going to be rereading it, so I ended up getting rid of it, which is why I'm not holding it up in this video. I ended up selling it to somebody else, but it was a really good book. I honestly had never read anything like it before. It wasn't like hugely romance driven like a lot of the other Owl Crate books have been, so yeah, I really ended up enjoying that. So the next one is Prior Incantato, the last book that you read. Wayward Son by Rainbow Rowell, and I just got this book. I think it came out on September 24th, and I read it early in October, and I really ended up enjoying this book. Such a fast-paced read. I think I finished it in like 2 to 3 days maybe, during the week after work, which is, for me, is pretty darn good. So the fourth prompt is Alohomora, and that is a book that introduced you to a genre you had not considered before. And I think for that one, I'm going to have to go with The Lies of Lamora by Scott Lynch. It's kind of like a pirate fantasy. Not really a pirate fantasy. It's like a thief fantasy. It almost reminds me of Six of Crows, but darker. And honestly, I have not even finished that book yet. I'm listening to it on Audible. I'm about, I think a little more than halfway through at this point. But it's really good and really dark. It is a really messed up book. And honestly, I think I'm going to have to do a full-on review of it. It is an older book. It's the Gentleman Bastard series by Scott Lynch. And I actually heard about it from Murphy Napier over on her booktube channel. She raves about these books. She absolutely loves them. So her and I have similar reading tastes, so I decided, alright, I'm going to have to pick these up and see what they're all about. So with my Audible credit this month, that is what I picked up, and I am definitely not disappointed. It's not necessarily a genre that I wouldn't have read before. It's just a lot darker than anything I've ever really read. So I guess that's kind of how I'm counting this. Sorry, my face is really itchy today. I don't know what my deal is. The next one is Riddikulus, and that is a funny book you've read. And that I'm going to have to go with Deadbeat by Jim Butcher. I know I talk about Jim Butcher a lot on my channel, but let me just read you a couple of these quotes. If you don't laugh at these, I'm sorry, but you have no damn sense of humor. I mean, some of them might need context, so I guess if you don't laugh, either you don't get the context or you don't have a sense of humor. Pick one. I don't know. So here's the quote. "We are not going to die." Butter stared up at me, pale, his eyes terrified. "We're not?" "No. And do you know why?" He shook his head. "Because Thomas is too pretty to die, and because I'm too stubborn to die." I hauled on his shirt even harder, and most of all because tomorrow is Oktoberfest, Butters, and Polka will never die. That just cracks me up every single time, because Polka will never die ends up becoming like a mantra in this book, because the guy that he's talking to, Butters, is like, you know, this short introverted guy who like never gets out of the house, and he loves polka, so he's like not used to being in war zones basically. So it's funny to me. I'm sorry, my bad. So here's the next one. It was one of those moments that would have had dramatic music if my life were a movie, but instead I got a radio jingle for some kind of submarine sandwich place blaring over the store's ambient stereo. The movie of my life must be really low budget. Kills me every time. This is the internal monologue of Harry Dresden right here. This is why I love these books, because they're hilarious. They're witty, it's like witty one-liners, okay? It's hilarious. Don't come for me, I'm sorry. So, the next prompt is Sonorous, a book you think everybody should know about. Again, anything by Jim Butcher. I think he is such an underrated author. I don't think people talk about him enough, honestly. Could be because we haven't seen a new book from him in a while, but I think he's an underrated author. So, the next one is Obliviate, a book or spoiler you wish you wouldn't have heard or read. The one that I'm going with is the season ender, or the series ender for Game of Thrones. It wasn't really a spoiler because I read it somewhere on some forum that it was just somebody's really good damn guess, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I would hate it if it was, but it makes sense. So then I watched the final episode of Game of Thrones Season 8, and guess what? That's what it was. And I'm like, God damn it. And I watched it the day it came out. So either this person had an in with somebody who worked on the show, or they were just really, really good at putting clues together and guessing how it was going to end. But it ticked me off because it really colored my view of it. Not that I was happy with Game of Thrones Season 8 in the first place, but you know, it happened. So, ticked me off. As far as books, I can pretty much stay away from those spoilers. Just don't read the reviews. Honestly, just don't read the reviews. So, the next one is Imperio, a book you had to read for school. That one, we didn't really have to read classics in school, honestly, or if we did, I sure as heck don't remember them. So, the one I can remember distinctly reading, which kind of kicked off my love of reading even more, was the Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. And I remember my high school English teacher, and I don't think it was freshman, maybe sophomore or junior year in high school, my English teacher was really a big fan of these books, and the movie was just getting made, and so he had us read this book, and I just became like, I fell head first into Dan Brown's world of Robert Langdon with the Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons and all that, and I loved it, and I couldn't get enough of reading those books. So I think that's the one. The next one is Crucio, a book that was painful to read. And that one I am going with Wicked by Gregory Maguire. I really, really wanted to like those books. I think after I started my booktube channel, though, that was one of the first set of books that I bought was Wicked, Son of a Witch, yada yada yada, that series. And because I had read at least Wicked before, and I thought I remembered liking it, and then I was really, really disappointed. It's so political, and there's just so much crap in it. It's just like, God, can we get this over with yet? And I haven't picked up the second book again. I think I read like 50 pages into it, and I was like, nope, I'm putting this down. I got too much other stuff on my TBR that I really want to read read this right now. Eventually I'll pick it up again, but yeah, that book was painful. So the next one is Avada Kedavra, of course, because that has to be the last one. And that is a book that could kill, interpret as you will. And again, for this one, I'm going to go with The Lies of Lamora because it is so dark. And so many people die, and main characters die. So it's like Game of Thrones-esque in that the main characters get killed off. Not so much in that it's a complicated plot. It's really good. I can't stress this enough, honestly. You're getting these like flashbacks of the past and how Lamora came to be who he is today, and how his little group of friends came to be who they are today. And basically they're in this gang of thieves, and they set up these complicated plots to steal money from people and to steal things from people, and they're basically the richest thieves on the street, except nobody but them knows it. And it's really, 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 really interesting. and it's interesting how Scott Lynch sets all of it up, and the flashbacks make sense. And I don't think, because a lot of books with flashbacks, they really detract from the story. You're getting into this action, then all of a sudden it's like, stop, wait a minute, we're gonna go back 20 years and tell you what happened then. And I think Scott Lynch does it in a way that's really interesting, and it really makes sense in the story, because it was going to leave you at a chapter anyway, so then we go ahead and do a flashback and then we come back into it. So I really don't mind it in this, because normally I hate it unless it's like a slow part of the book or something. So yeah. So that was the Harry Potter spells tag, and I'm going to go ahead and tag some people down below in the description, because of course, as you guys know, I am never prepared when it comes to stuff like this, well, when it comes to tagging people. So I'm just going to go ahead and tag a couple of people down in the comments, and hopefully everybody enjoys doing this tag as much as I did. So that's it for this video, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.